People who work in the hospitality industry know what they deal with every day, but they have no choice other than this. Housekeeping becomes their sole source of income, and such people are pushed to accept what they encounter each day of their service. While some manage their chores with a smile, some walk over the odd and rude behavior of guests. And one hotel maid in Utah had seen it all. She was used to handling impolite guests, and when she encountered something left behind by two guests in one of the suites, she burst into tears, and you'll love to see why. Maid shocked when she cleaned hotel room. Not all jobs are the same, and some can challenge your mental and physical ability. From all the tough jobs out there, housekeeping is most vulnerable to being treated rudely for your courteous service. But this maid in Park City, Utah, knew what she was going for. Despite trying hard every day, all she bagged at the end of the day were a bunch of odd experiences and an unappreciated workplace. But her past forced her to do it all. This woman wasn't recruited through a human resource call or appointment. She voluntarily made her way to the reception's front desk back in 2013 and boldly requested to apply for the position. She looked confident, and no one was able to tell that she was poor and penniless. Perhaps the now hiring board that led her to the job didn't portray the bitter truth behind what she was tasked with every day. Stranded without a job is something that cannot be explained by words alone. It's a feeling of empathy where one might feel deserted and lost while the world rushes past them. And this woman was experiencing the same trauma. When she advanced towards the reception, she held a vague hope that she would somehow make it to the job, but it wasn't that easy. Nevertheless, the woman seemed all tied up with confidence, and she needed this job somehow. She could say nothing more than a few words of assurance that she'd be the perfect candidate for the job they were hiring for. She was prepared to take up any workload and tasks. Her bold attitude didn't seem to go well with the hotel owner. He was suspicious about the woman's willingness to take up any job without knowing much about it. Nevertheless, he needed someone to handle the housekeeping duties, as the hotel's situation was uncanny and slipping out of his hands. To top it all, some guests behaved very impolitely during their stay. Was the woman prepared to handle the job that would return nothing more than an awful experience each day? The guests who rented the suites were a bunch of people who never cared about what goes through the other person, especially when he or she has to clean the mess left behind them. Perhaps it was the least of their concern. While the hotel housed guests with weird behavior, some exceeded their limits. There was a particular incident that made the hotel's previous housekeeper end her commitment to her job. She resigned, and ever since, the owner was on the lookout for a person who would work and adjust to the strange behavior of the guests. Maybe this woman made the wrong decision to join here. Flashing back to the present, the owner decided to give the woman a chance after listening to her bold and confident assurance. And he needed someone who worked hard against all the odds that fell their way. He was confident that she would leave her job in a few days, just like his previous staff did. But the woman proved him wrong. She was a hardworking lady who was committed to her job with heartfelt dedication. Within a few days, she started to take up her errands and even dealt with dirty piles of laundry. She seemed too professional for her position. She also brought about an organizational system to push things in place at her workplace. Her hard work was rewarded with a decent paycheck and nothing else. Nevertheless, she seemed happy, but not until when two guests turned up at the hotel. While the hotel could have housed all sorts of people, two kind-hearted beings decided to rent the suite there. Josh Gibson and Kyle Arefis were known for their kind deeds, which they filmed and uploaded on their YouTube channel, Give Back Films. Were these two good hearts about to do something heartwarming at the hotel? Both Josh and Kyle were famous, but this didn't stop them from trying new projects. And when the news of the enterprising Maid reached their ears in 2014, they decided to go for it without further delay. They knew that she'd be a perfect choice for their next project. After some quick thinking, they advanced to the hotel and plotted their bizarre plan. Shockingly, the hotel owner joined forces with them. They started to make a little mess with the upholstery and bedding to make the room lived in. Josh and Kyle didn't want to make the maid doubtful in any way. Everything went according to their plan, and they even installed some hidden cameras in the particular room. Now, it was time for the main action. It was a little surprise they had planned for the maid. When Josh finished writing a piece of note, Kyle immediately arranged all the contents neatly under the blanket. After having got the satisfaction of a perfect plot, they removed the Do Not Disturb sign from the doorknob and returned to their van to watch the entire sequence live. The maid entered the room at last. It was just like any other typical day for her. And looking at the messy room, she knew she had another ordinary day on the calendar. The maid quickly lifted the bedding and was shocked at what she saw. It was an unbelievable surprise that gushed her eyes with tears. A heart-touching note lay there, surrounded by a sum of $500. She was shocked because this was the most generous tip she received in her life. After the shocking surprise was revealed, the maid rushed to see the boys in their van. She reciprocated towards their kind gesture with a warm hug and couldn't stop smiling and crying at the same time. But eventually, she refused to take the money. The boys were quite shocked when the maid declined the money. The amount was quite large, and she didn't feel right to accept such a whopping tip from someone. Each act of hers proved her generosity and the way she took life satisfied and straightforward. But the boys somehow convinced the maid to accept the money and told her that it was a warm gesture for her hardworking attitude. And when she took the money, Josh and Kyle seemed happier than the maid herself. Sometimes, all it takes is a kind heart to reciprocate to someone's dedication and hard work. The story of the hardworking maid is another example of how life blesses the unexpected with shocking yet heartwarming surprises. And the maid deserved every bit of the surprise.